Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video we've got a brief update with regards to the GT Sport 1.13 update that has come onto the game today. It's added some more content, a few extra tracks, and obviously a few more cars. So going straight into the tracks, we've got two infield variations, obviously in reverse and normal way, on the Blue Moon Bay Speedway. One version, the longer version, isn't a particularly long track, but it's still got a lot of quite complex corners when you look at the track layout. I think GR3 lap it in around 1 minute 6 seconds, something like that, I've noticed on today's sport mode race. Next up is the 3 cars that are being featured within today's update. There's quite a few in there. I've driven one, the most important one that I wanted to drive, and I'm going to have a test drive of that car coming up today, a bit later on today after I've uploaded this video. It's going to be driving the F1 car, what is the Lotus F1 car. So let's have a little look at the cars that have been added. First up, we've got the Dodge Challenger RT 1970. Not a car that I'm particularly interested in driving. Some of you will want to drive it, but again, I really not. That's not for me. Again, another car that's not really for me, but there is going to be a lot of people that want cars like this. A Mustang Mach-1 1971. Probably great fun if you're into that type of thing, but not for me. Again, not a car that I'm particularly excited about. The Di Tomaso Pantera or something like that. It's not a car that I'm particularly interested in. These cars, I'm not a massive fan of some of these. This car is probably the only one that I wouldn't mind trying out to compare it to other games that this is in. This has been featured in other games, and I wouldn't mind trying this out to compare it to how it's featured in that. Next up is a car that I've done the test drive on, and I'm going to be uploading a video on, the F1500 TA, which is basically a Lotus 98 F1 car, and I'm really looking forward to bringing that video to you today. Next up, the Toyota Supra 3.3 litre GT, the old Supra. Would have much rather a more modern Supra than that, but that's what we've been given. Next up, an MR2 GTS. Again, not a car that I'm particularly massively excited about, although I'm interested to drive this because I have owned one of these cars in real life, so it would be quite interesting to see how that handles on this game compared to how I drove it in real life and how I experienced it. Next up, the very quite strange one, the Audi R8 is the older version and the original V8s. Next up, the Aventador Lamborghini. Excited about this, want to drive this, want to hear what the engine sounds like on this game. And then we've got some other cars that I'm really excited about. The Isle of Man Time Attack Subaru WRX STI. Very interested to drive that car. That car is going to be a really interesting car to drive. And another really interesting car to drive, the Falcon Tire Turn 14 Distribution BRZ. I'm not sure whether I'm presuming these cars are all set up in terms of racing. I'm not sure if some of them are drift cars or not, but they look like cars I want to drive. Next up should be a fun car, the latest version of the Alpine, the more modern version of that old car we saw before. Again, that should be interesting. Along with add-on content, there's a few more escape stuff and added stuff like that I'm really not worried about. And obviously, I was surprised this didn't get added in the original update when we got Monza. They're adding the circuit experience for that, and obviously more league races for the add-on content there. And next up is the really important thing that I come across when reading through the notes. It's with regards to the sport mode and the changes that have happened within sportsmanship. So let's read this. The sportsmanship rating, the SR, and the penalty judgment adjustments have been improved. In a collision between two cars, a penalty will now be added to the driver rating DR, as well as incurring a time penalty depending on the situation. Now this, I feel, if they've got it right, could be really an important step in the right direction, because the SR system, no one really cared about it because it was so easy to get back to your SR. However, if collisions are now going to affect your driver rating, this could be really good in terms of keeping the races a lot cleaner. So if a driver continues to drive without complying with a certain amount of time penalty, like I said in the video yesterday, you used to be able to just drive on and slowly get rid of your time penalty. This is not going to be the case anymore. So obviously you're going to be required to take that penalty as soon as possible and get rid of it, otherwise you're going to incur quite a hefty time penalty. Next up, we have additional time penalty, etc. That's what we just read. A driver may now be disqualified. This is really important. A driver may now be disqualified from a race if a number of collisions and shortcuts they accumulate become too great. This is basically iRacing. So on iRacing, you have a penalty system of normally on like a GT3 race, if it's a 40-minute race, etc. It's about, I think it's 17, I think it is, and depending on the collision, it's different amounts of values you get for each collision and penalty and shortcut, etc. So I haven't tried this out, but I'm hoping they give you some sort of like information on how close you are to reaching this. They really should do that, because sometimes getting corner cut things, etc., you know, on tracks that are quite severe for it, can cause you to basically get quite a few in lap. I know on iRacing on Spa was a nightmare for it. It was so strict on the corner cutting system. You had to really keep your eye on that your times penalty system when driving. So hopefully they're going to add something. If they haven't added it already, hopefully they're going to add that into the game at some point in the future. Next up now, which is really another, I kind of like this thing that they've done here. I've suggested it for other games and people said no, you know, but Drive Club did it and it worked. It's the fact that lapped cars will now be ghosted, and this is so important because people that are getting lapped sometimes have no awareness around them, and they end up getting in your way and they end up ruining the race for more than just a few people. They end up taking you out, others out, and it's just not a good thing. So now when you come up to behind lap drivers, their car is going to be ghosted, so you do not need to worry about getting taken out by anyone deliberately doing it, or if anyone's just not paying attention, etc. This is not going to be a case anymore. That has been eliminated. The car will ghost, and hopefully we'll have no issues in terms of lapped cars. Although if you're in the top switch, you don't really get to lap people in short races, but hopefully, I'm hoping by the sounds of this, they're going to be thinking of adding longer races in by introducing this. So longer races of like 30 to 40 laps would be great. I'm really hoping for it at some point in the future within sport mode. And then briefly, it just quickly mentions about the grief reporting thing that I mentioned before. You're now going to be able to grief report people for causing deliberate collisions and not acting in sportsmanlike behaviour. So this is going to be interesting. It should also make people think twice about, because there is potential that people are going to get banned from this game, and I am quite interested to see how this works. So I'm hoping it basically improves the racing quite a lot, especially in the lower tiers for the people that aren't quite so fast. I did find that when I was starting off fresh, the driving wasn't as clean lower down as it is higher up. So that's one thing that hopefully will be sorted out so that everyone can get a clean racing experience on the game. And then finally, we just have a quick notification of a change within the physics simulation model for the Lancia Evolution Final Edition 15. It's just something to do with the active brake controls for the four-wheel drive system. So it's just something very small there that's changed. That's nothing really going to affect anyone massively. There's nothing mentioned about BOP changes. There's nothing mentioned about any other physics changes. But I tend to find that if they do make changes to stuff like that, they don't tend to put stuff like that within the patch notes. So we'll have to just work stuff like that out ourselves and see if there's any slight changes. If any of you guys notice anything else within the game that has changed, feel free to write a comment on the comment section. There is a few things that I've probably missed out that I'm not really that interested in, so I've not probably put it in there, or I've not noticed it or something. Obviously the library editor stuff, it's on there as well. I'm not going to go too in depth on that. That's for people that are interested in library editing stuff. I'm more interested in the cars, etc., and the racing, etc. So hopefully everything's running smoothly. I mean, someone has mentioned that the game keeps crashing to me, but whether this is a thing that's going to be for everyone, I was on it before and had no issues with the update at all, so it could just be an individual problem. That if you're interested in checking out my first playtest of the the open wheel car, the F1500 car, I'm going to have that uploaded hopefully today. It's an enjoyable car. Comparing it to other forms of sims, it's interesting. I'm going to leave all the verdicts that I give for that car in that video that will be uploaded today, so please check that out. And hope everyone enjoys the update, and again, make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and obviously make sure you subscribe for more future videos. We're going to keep putting out these setup videos for Assetto Corsa, Project Cars 2, and obviously hopefully one day we should be starting to do some setups within GT Sport, but at the moment there's no real need for setups as much as there is other games, so we'll get on to doing them more soon. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be back with more videos very soon.